Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing the Finally Fall book tag. I was tagged for this video by Liz from For Booking Out Loud, and I will link her channel down below probably. Before I get into the questions, let me just mention that I was sick this past week. So if my voice sounds weird today, it's probably because it is. I'm okay now, I'm just coughing a bit still, but hopefully it won't get too annoying and we'll get through this video. And no, I did not have the coronavirus, it's just a regular cold, which is pretty typical for this time of year, I think, especially around here because it's getting a lot colder outside. And also I had been hanging out with some family members the weekend prior to this past week, and they were sick, so I totally blame them. But yeah, anyway, let's just get into the questions. I have them on my computer right here, so if I'm looking down a lot, you'll know why. So the first question is, in fall the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. And the first book that came to mind for this was actually The Diviners by Libba Bray, which I've already talked about on this channel quite a bit, so I won't get too much into what this book is about. Oops! Let me see if I can actually hold this book. So basically, I really enjoyed this book when I read it in August. But I think the thing I enjoyed the most about it was actually the atmosphere and the setting. I just felt like the author did a really good job with that. This is set in 1920s New York City, and I definitely felt like I was there. I definitely felt like it was very accurate for that time. I don't know if it was, but it felt that way to me. And also, this is paranormal mystery. And there's a pretty creepy ghost, and like there's a bit of that like creepy atmosphere, creepy setting kind of thing in this book, and I definitely felt that too. So this one definitely, if you're into like sort of creepy mystery type books for this time of year, this one would probably be a good. This one would probably be a good book for that, even though it's not like a mystery thriller type of book, but it has a mystery that I thought was pretty good. So yeah, highly recommend this one. So the second question is, nature is beautiful but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written but also deals with a heavy topic like loss or grief. And for this book, I've chosen I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, which is a book that I read early this year, I think. This is a book about two twins. It's the boy is named Noah and the girl, and Jude is the girl. So this is a story about them, and it takes place in two separate timelines. So in one of the timelines we learn that something has happened that sort of caused a divide between the two of them. They're not really as close as they were, and throughout the story we learn why that is. So this book, when I read it, one of the things that sort of struck me about this is that it's YA, I guess, because the characters are like, I can't remember exactly. I think in one timeline they're quite young, but in the other I think they're like 16 maybe. And this, even though it's young adult, it's sort of written like an adult book. I felt like the language was kind of sort of mature YA. It wasn't that typical YA where you can just breeze through it and it's super easy to read. I didn't feel that way at all. Maybe again it could be a language thing since English is my second language, but I usually read like normal YA books pretty quickly, and this one I definitely had to take my time with a little bit. So if you're a person who don't usually read YA, but would kind of like to try one, maybe this one would be a good one to check out. It's very good. It's, as I remember it, it is very beautifully written, and it definitely deals with grief and loss. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. Question number 3 is, fall is back to school season. Share a non-fiction book that taught you something new. I don't read a lot of non-fiction. I definitely don't read enough non-fiction. So I looked at the books that I've read this year, and I've only read 3. And of those 3 books, one of them I wouldn't really say really taught me anything new, really. And the other one I've already talked about on this channel, so I decided to go with the third one, which is a book called Sorted, Growing Up, Coming Out and Finding My Place by Jackson Bird. This is a book about, it's basically a guy who tells a story, and he is a trans guy. And he's very, I didn't know who he was before I got into this book, but he is very, or he's pretty well known in like the Harry Potter fandom or community, I guess. I think he has a YouTube channel, and if you're into the Harry Potter community, you probably know who he is. So it's basically about him growing up and eventually starting to figure out that he is not actually a girl, even though he is biologically born as a girl. And it's about him sort of coming to terms with it and eventually like going through the process of transitioning, basically. So the reason why this taught me something new is because I haven't read a whole lot of books about trans people. And also, I don't know anyone in my life who is trans. So that experience is sort of a new experience to me. But I could actually, like, even though his journey is not my journey, I could still, like, relate to a lot of the things that he went through and thought and felt, even though, like, our stories and our lives are different. And even though I didn't know who this person was before I got into the book, that didn't really matter. I still enjoyed this book a lot. And also, totally recommend the audiobook for this one, because he narrates the audiobook himself, and that just brought a whole new dimension to the story, I thought. So basically it was him sort of telling it to me. So yeah, if this sounded interesting, and if maybe this is something that you would like to learn a little bit more about, I would totally recommend checking out this book. And then we have the 4th question, which is, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family / household / friend group that you'd like to be a part of. And this one I had to think about a little bit, because there's a lot of like families and friend groups that I really love and enjoy in books, but that I don't necessarily want to be a part of for various reasons. So the one that I finally settled on, I kind of chose because I wanted an excuse to finally mention a book that is my favorite book of the year, but that I still haven't mentioned on this channel. So basically I chose the friend group in Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This just, when I read this book, I just thought it sounded like such a fun and including friend group. And in this story, basically, the premise of the story is that the 2 main characters have to keep their relationship a secret. But in this friend group, at least eventually, they could sort of be themselves. So that was maybe also why this just felt like a super like fun and like easygoing friend group, I guess. But yeah, basically this book is my favorite book of the year. I love it so much. I know it came out last year, I guess, but I read it this year. And ever since the day I finished this, I've been wanting to reread it, basically. I haven't yet. I will, definitely, at some point. I don't know when. I don't know how long I can wait. But yeah, friend group in this book, I would definitely love to be a part of. Question number 5. The colorful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a pile of fall-colored spines. So I have a little stack here with some fall colored books, or at least spines. Let me see if I can show it. There you go. I chose sort of orange-y yellow kind of books. Honestly, fall, at least late fall here, is definitely more brown than any of these colors. But these colors just makes me more happy, so I went with those. And you know, for a few weeks at least, we have these colors, and they are so pretty. So here is my like fall colored book stack. And if you're wondering which ones I've read this one, this one, this one, and this one. Will read this one this month and have not read this one. So yeah. Question number 6. Fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein somebody is telling a story. And for this one, I definitely had to go with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one was one of my favorite books of last year. I think it was. Yeah, I read this last year. And I absolutely love this. And I feel like this is so well known on BookTube that everyone either have read it themselves or they know what this book is about. So I won't go too much into this. But basically in this story, a older woman is telling her life story, basically. She used to be, or still kind of is, I guess, super famous. And in this story, she tells her like a life story to a journalist, and she basically had 7 husbands, and through this book we sort of learn who her one true love was or is. So this one was just so engaging, I could hardly put it down, and this one is another one that I will definitely reread at some point. So basically, if you haven't read this one and it sounds like in any way interesting to you, definitely pick it up. I read it, and at the time I read it, it was so hyped, and I had very high expectations for it, so I knew that there was a good chance that I might be disappointed, but no, I was not disappointed. This book was every bit as good as everyone told me it is, and yeah, definitely check this out if it sounds interesting to you. Question number 7 is, the nights are getting darker. Share a dark, creepy read. And this was definitely one of the more challenging questions because I don't read a lot of dark, creepy books. I read some thrillers and mysteries, but they're not always like dark and creepy. I don't need them to be dark and creepy in order to enjoy them. But one book that did come to mind was Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. I've read 3 Gillian Flynn books at this point. All of them were kind of dark and creepy, but this one to me was the creepiest, I guess. It's also my first book that I read from her. And it's been quite a few years now, so I don't remember much about this book at all. But I do remember the feeling I got from reading it. And it was this kind of like creepy, like uncomfortable feeling almost. And I can't remember if I actually even really liked this book. But I think this, just the feeling that this book gave me, I mean, it was supposed to give me that feeling, so obviously this book did something right. And I think there's a TV show for this book now. I haven't checked that out yet. I kind of want to, because like I said, I don't know that I love this book, but it did something right, and I think a show based on this book would be pretty interesting, so I might actually check it out. But yeah, if you want something dark and creepy and haven't checked out this one, give it a try. Question number 8. The days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. And for this one, I've picked a book that is not necessarily short, but it's very quick to read, which is why I picked it. And it's basically Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, which I've also talked about on this channel. Let me just hold up the first book. This is Heartstopper Volume 1. Like I said, I've talked about it quite a lot on this channel already. Those of you who have watched any of my previous videos where I've talked about these books know that these are my favorite graphic novels, and that I love this series so much. So in this first book we basically meet Charlie and Nick, and we follow them from them like getting to know each other to becoming friends. And in this book, like, Charlie knows that he's gay, and he knows that like he's interested in Nick, but Nick has always considered himself to be straight, so he is sort of figuring out his feelings for Charlie. And it's just the most heartwarming read ever. Like, if someone would was to ask me to recommend something that was just like warm and fuzzy, this book definitely is one that I would highly recommend. Because it just gives me all those warm, happy feelings. Like, especially later in book 3 in particular, we're sort of like going into some heavier topics as well, but it's still done in a way that's such a like warm, that gives me such a warm feeling, basically. So yeah, this book is not like super short, but like I said, it's a graphic novel with kind of like not very much text and sort of big like pictures, so it's a very quick read to get through. And there will be 2 more volumes in this series, I think, so 5 volumes altogether. And you can also read this series online. If I can find the link, I will link it down below. I don't read it online, so I don't know how far the story is there. But yeah, highly recommend this series. Then we have question number 9. Fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you'd like to return to soon. So for this one, I picked a big one. It's Lord of the Rings. This is the Norwegian edition, and I have all 3 books in one, so it's kind of big. This book, basically, I read this many years ago, and ever since then, I've sort of, when people ask me what my favorite book is, I usually say that this is my favorite book. But honestly, I don't know if that's even true anymore, because it's been so long since I read it, and also I read it around the same time that the movies came out. I think I started this book because I wanted to try and read it before the first movie came out. I wasn't able to do that, so I watched the first movie while still reading this book. I can't remember if I was past, like, if I'd read what is technically the first book or not, but anyway, I was obsessed with the movies when they came out. I was so into them, and like, I know for sure that the movies are, to this day, they are my favorite movies of all time, and I don't know if any movie can ever like take that place in like on my list. I think these 3 movies might always be my favorite movies, so I know that. But I'm not sure if this book, if I consider it my favorite book because I love the movies so much, or if I actually really love this book as much as I remember. So that it's kind of why I want to reread it, but it's also why I'm kind of scared to reread it, because I would really love if this was still my favorite book, and if this story still means as much to me as I remember it. And also, I think if I decide to reread this one, and I probably will at some point, I just don't know when. I've only read it in Norwegian. I have read this one, and I've read The Hobbit, and I've read Silmarillion. And all of them I've read in Norwegian, so I have yet to read this author in English. So So I think if I decide to reread this book, I might try and read it in English and see how that is. But yeah, I will reread this at some point. It probably won't be soon, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm scared and also kind of excited. Then we have the last question, which is question number 10. Fall is the perfect time for cozy reading nights. Share your favorite cozy reading accessories. I don't have a lot of those. I'm not really the kind of person who, I feel like a lot of people like drink coffee or tea while reading, or at least it looks that way in like Instagram photos and stuff. I don't really do that. I don't really drink anything while reading. Like, I'll take a sip of water if I'm thirsty, but like apart from that, I don't like make myself a cup of tea and then sit down to read. The exception is now that I'm working from home, I always drink a cup of tea at lunch, and I also read during my lunch now that I'm at home. So like right now I'm combining those two for lunch. I'm like drink my tea and I'll eat my food and while reading. But that's not really a typical thing for me. I don't read during my lunch normally. So yeah, my only like reading accessory basically is this blanket. It's not really a fall accessory for me because I sit under this blanket pretty much all year round. So that is definitely a reading accessory, but I don't think I have anything else. Like a bookmark, obviously, but I don't really use that while reading, so yeah, I don't, this blanket, but not much else, basically. So that was the last question. It basically also says to tag some people. I think most of those that I know have already done this tag. If you haven't and you want to do it, then definitely do. I think this tag is super fun, and I always enjoy hearing people's answers. So yeah, that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!